For residents living in and around the Mission Canyon corridor, traffic safety has been a hot topic. For years, community members have tried reaching a consensus about how to resolve many of the transportation issues, but without resolution. Now, a new plan is being proposed, headed by the county and a community-formed group called the Concerned Citizens for Safe Passage.
It actually started with a conversation between some folks at the Mission and some folks at the Natural History Museum who have to continually contend with a lot of tourists, mostly busloads of fourth graders from all over Southern California who come to study the Mission, and then inevitably the educator involved or the teacher will say, okay class, after we have picnic on the lawn of the Mission, we're going to walk over to the Natural History Museum. And of course about that point somebody from the Mission comes running out and says, don't do that. It's not really a good way to do that, just to walk the several hundred yards between the two facilities. Get back on the bus and drive over them.
The general idea is to address the miscellaneous traffic problems, the pedestrian problems, the bicycle problems, the turning problems that traffic has from APS onto Mission Canyon Road. At the same time, integrating the area that's really currently very jumbled and fragmented into a cultural heritage destination point.
The Mission Canyon Corridor Community Consensus Proposal began in 2013 as a 2-year concept-level planning process funded by a Caltrans planning grant. These grants promote transportation and land use planning projects that encourage community involvement and partnership.
So the community wanted some improvements made, and they asked for the county and city to collaborate on improvements to get pedestrians and bicyclists through this corridor better. So then we, as staff, went and sought grants to make that happen. And we were found out that there's a program through Caltrans called Community-Based Transportation Planning Grant Program. So we applied for that grant as a partnership with the city of Santa Barbara, and we're successful. And it provided the planning money we needed to get this project started up.
While the Caltrans planning grant did allow for concept planning of this project to begin, it is not enough to fund the project itself.
This is going to be a very expensive project, and I think everybody needs to realize that it's probably going to be built over a period of years, if not decades, and it's going to have to be a phased project.
In an effort to develop the best project, the city partnered with the county to hold a series of workshops, engaging the community to provide input.
The public workshops that we've had for this process have been extremely helpful. We intended to listen to the public. What is the public's concerns? Don't start with solutions. What are your concerns? What are the issues? We asked them what's important about the corridor. What do they love? What do they not like? What is important to fix? And what is important not to touch? And with that information, we were able to put together what we thought was a minimum project that the public was saying, this is what can be done. Based on what the public said, we see a consensus proposal that we believe could be approved, and it includes creating a walking path on the westerly side of Mission Canyon Corridor from Laguna in front of the Mission all the way up to 192 Foothill.
It's tight in here, and so the trick is you got to bring the roadway over. A couple of these trees are going to have to be removed, like this, I think it's a sycamore here. And then you do a pedestrian pathway and then a bike lane on that side. In the end, it enables the roadway to feel just a little wider without doing a major roadway widening that could have more impacts to the aesthetics of the corridor.
The public workshops also identified other challenges.
Many members of the public want us to do more than what's proposed. Like for instance, APS and Mission Canyon Corridor. Some people have said we need to fix that intersection. And we know that from what the community says, there are issues. But we also know that if we try to adjust that intersection, the controversy will probably be such that we won't do anything. And that is what we're trying to do, is just something. Let's do something the community can embrace, boards and commissions can approve, and the council and ultimately the Board of Supervisors can agree that we can fund something. What is that minimal proposal? That's been our objective.
Another challenge lies in navigating the preservation of the rich history of the area.
I think what's being discussed primarily among the residents certainly is the fact that this is a very rustic, rural location that wants to remain as innocent as possible of overbearing development and civilization. We are very protective of the romance and the rustic flavor of this area. This ruin behind me dates from the late 1700s, and the waterworks behind that ruin are the reservoirs that fed the culture that evolved in the early 1800s. This is precious land with many historic artifacts that still exist today.
Although a consensus has been reached, there's still much more that needs to be done before implementation can begin.
So the next step would be to go to the boards and commissions, Historical Landmarks Commission, the Planning Commission. The county staff is also taking it through their commissions, leading up to the city council and the supervisors. And along the way, hearing more public comments, getting more feedback about the minimum proposal, with the ultimate goal of saying, yes, this proposal is doable.
Another challenge on the horizon is finding additional funding for the project, if and when it's given the green light.
We don't have any money set aside for this project. It continues to be controversial. So the challenge is to first get a project that is approvable and then agree between the county and the city that we're committed to that project, and then try to get the funding to do it.
The committee realizes that ultimate implementation of any of these solutions is going to require a partnership between the public and private funding side of the world. Some of this certainly would be funded by public available money. The county and the city have identified potential sources at state and federal level where that might be possible, but we also realize that a lot of it will have to be funded privately.
After decades of proposals, it's going to take a great deal of community involvement to see this project finally come to fruition.
I think that what's really important here is that we continue the community dialogue. This has to be a community solution. This is not one or two people deciding what's going to happen. This is a collective effort of all of us within the entire community, because we're standing on ground that's so rich in terms of its cultural resources and our understanding of how Santa Barbara began. We're standing at a point a few hundred yards away from where the mission is, from where our original water source is. A lot of who we are as Santa Barbarans started in this corridor. So we want to be able to share that not only with our community, but we want to be able to share that with the world who comes here by the thousands every year to visit this very rich historic place.
You know, we're really grateful for the community involvement. We need everybody to continue to be actively involved with us to make sure we get the job done right.